Hey Lashpreneurs, happy Monday! We are going to be diving into kind of some behind the scenes and real talk about becoming an educator. I have these conversations quite regularly with those that are like debating on what's the next step. They become fully booked for the most part in their business and they're like, I don't want to be in the treatment room forever. And the traditional, typical lash artist success path, we'll call that, is start your own business, grow it, become fully booked. Then you do one of three things. Either you do a product line, you hire a team, or you become an educator. That's like the standard, what 99% of lash artists think is their next step. However, I actually want to kind of give you an insight on what being an educator really is, because I think there is a very common misconception on what being an educator is and what that actually means and what that actually looks like. Because from what I've had conversations with people about this, actually hiring a team gets you to fill the desire of what you think being an educator is, as opposed to actually becoming an educator in our industry. So let's dive into that today. The primary reasons why becoming an educator is appealing to most, and maybe this resonates with you, or maybe this is why you've considered maybe someday becoming an educator, or maybe you are, is for a couple of reasons. The first one being that there's more money to be made in theory, right? So you can charge, I don't know, what's the going rate, $1,000, $2,000 for a 1 to 2 day training. And like, wow, that's amazing. You train somebody. And then, you know, if you get 2 to 3 students, you can do $2,000 to $3,000 in sales in 1 to 2 days, which is great. Like, don't get me wrong. That's not money to just like scoff at. However, and okay, we'll just do like the opinions of what they think it is. So a lot more money with a lot less time involved with it. Cool. Love that for you. Love that journey. Second, they love that they can teach someone and that they can see somebody get like light bulbs to go off, that something that they know has been able to impact and give somebody this like awareness of a new skill or an aha, or maybe the student is struggling and then all of a sudden they get it and they're so excited. It's like you're almost imparting wisdom that then turns into confidence for your student. So there's a lot of that behind being an educator, that people are like, I love pouring into women. I love that I get to mentor them, and I love that they can ask me questions, and that like the stuff that I've figured out, I can help them do it better, faster, easier, all that. And there definitely is an aspect of that to some extent as an educator. And then lastly, the thing that draws people a lot into education is, especially if they want to create some sort of online education, it's somewhat ego tied. And I mean this not in an ego in a negative sense. We all have egos. We all want attention. We all, you know, thrive on being of service to others and having accolades of some kind, right? Even if you're an introvert, like having somebody see you and value you is a good thing. And so there is some of this of like, I want to have a following, I want to have influence, I want to have impact. And then if you tie the online component to it, you can have an international impact in our industry. So there's this belief of like, I want to be a traveling educator and I want to fly all over the world and like I want to be in demand and I want to go to Europe and do all the stuff, right? So all of those things are true for some. And all of those things are true for a very, very, very small population of those that are actually educators. What I want you to consider are a few things here. First and foremost, becoming an educator is a completely separate business model than what you are currently doing. So just because you're the person who's running both businesses, they are in fact two very separate businesses, and they need to be treated as such. Meaning that all of the marketing that you're doing for your brick and mortar lash services or whatever beauty services business you have solves a very specific problem for a very specific pain point, right? So we'll give the example of eyelash extensions solve for the problem of looking tired in the morning, or, you know, quickening your makeup routine. And so your content, your audience, your marketing, all of that is going to be driven towards educational content and building and nurturing relationships with people who have the problem of they don't like to spend a lot of time on their makeup and they want to look awake and alert all the time, whether they are or not, right? So that is how your marketing is effective to convert people to want to purchase what you offer, which is your services. On the other side, when we become an educator, you are still a service-based business, right? You are providing a service of education. However, you're solving a radically different problem and solving a radically different pain point, which means for your students of learning how to do lashes, You are solving the problem of them having a skill set that can earn them money. Very different than somebody who's looking to have beauty services. Somebody who's learning a trade or a skill to earn money at versus somebody who wants to enhance their beauty. Very different problems, very different pain points, i.e. very different businesses. So a lot of times those that have a successful lash business and want to move into education, they try to just use the current audience and marketing methods that they already have to try and get students to want to buy their education. That's not effective marketing whatsoever. In fact, we often recommend anybody who's trying to do that, you're killing both businesses. Because here, from an algorithm perspective, and there's everything in algorithm. It's not just social media. Your email marketing, your websites, your Google ads, all of those have algorithms to them. So the attention that you're getting from a potential customer is being watered down when you're trying to solve too many problems for too many different people. Think about it from your perspective. You're scrolling on Instagram, right? And let's say if you're following the Lashpreneur, if you're not already, please, let's do this. Let's take this relationship to the next level and like hang out on Instagram or TikTok. So you're scrolling on Instagram and you see the Lashpreneur. Now, how likely are you in your busy day-to-day life? You followed me because you want to learn business education. How likely are you to want to click with, engage, and or DM me if I am all of a sudden promoting LipSense? LipSense, is that what it is? The lip stuff, right? That was real hot several years ago. I'm sure it still is, but it's just not nearly as white. If I'm there going like, wow, guys, and I kiss my lips and like the lipstick doesn't come off and I'm like, you should totally do that. The odds of most of you looking at it to buy it as a consumer, not as a business model, right? I'm just trying to get you to buy the lipstick as, cool, it doesn't come off, is a very small percentage of you. Sure, maybe very few of you might actually be interested in that if you haven't already seen it, right? The lipstick that just doesn't come off, but you're not following me and you didn't follow me and you're not engaging in my content regularly because you think that you want to buy lipstick from me, right? So from an algorithm perspective, if I post something about lipstick, what the algorithm is going to do is throw that piece of content out to a percentage of my audience to test how valuable it is. Meaning, do people watch it? Do they engage with it? Do they click on it? Do they stay on the platform longer? Whatever that is. Do they open the email? If they don't, that's going to signal to the algorithm, this content is trash. Nobody wants to watch this. We're just going to let it die a very slow, painful death. So with that being said, if I'm trying to solve two different problems for two different audiences, I'm actually impacting my ability to reach anybody with my content, because now all of a sudden the algorithm is like, this person can't produce content that keeps anybody doing anything. So if they're going to post something, we're not going to show it to as many people because it doesn't do the job of what the algorithm is meant to do, which is keep people on a platform longer. Why? So they can be exposed to more advertising. Why? Because that's how all of these companies make their money, is paid ads. So if you're trying to build an audience of students, yet you're talking about your lash services, you're talking about the pain points of lashes. Yes, it's kind of educational to a student, but you're not actually addressing the pain point and the problem that the student has, which is, I don't know how to do this service. I don't know what the perks and benefits are long-term as a career. I don't know about the stability of the career being a lash artist. How do I build a clientele as a lash artist? How do I handle customer complaints? How do I apply, things in a straight line? How do I get lashes looking amazing like yours? Yes, they're following you. You may have other lash artists following you because they love your work and they're curious about it. And you may have 2-3 people reach out and be like, can you teach me how to do lashes? That does not indicate that there's so much demand for your ability to educate people that you should create a whole separate business model. Because here's where I'm following into point 2. Your job as an educator, 99% of your time will be spent marketing to acquire new students. Why? Because most educators only have one teaching methodology. And so the student comes, takes a training from them, and then they never come back to buy again. When you have lash clients, you have customer lifetime value built in where they're coming back repeatedly for fills or, touch-ups or whatever you want to call them. When you're an educator, most educators have students once. That's it. Maybe you teach them classic and then they come back for a volume course, but chances are they're going to like sprinkle their education from multiple different educators and not just keep going back to the same one. So you have to constantly be acquiring new students. So you better love marketing, because the bulk of your time will be spent marketing. Very little of your time will be spent in the education. So for example, you may spend an entire month marketing to have maybe 2 to 3 students in a 1 weekend course, right? That's a lot of time nurturing relationships, getting students in the door. You know, even the big companies that do education, maybe they're doing it a couple of times a month. And yes, there's good money could be there, but think about how much time you're spending on marketing. And a lot of you really struggle with marketing, or you have some weird beliefs about marketing, and you're not great at marketing to begin with. And yet that's really, when you move into education, more of your time will be spent marketing than it is actually in the fulfillment of the thing that you're offering. Most of my time is spent marketing. Podcasting is marketing. This is a marketing activity. This is part of our growth team. It is a free audio and video that we're doing that is nurturing a relationship with you, the listener, that then we're going to eventually have some conversation around, hey, we've got a program or a product or a coaching opportunity. Come join us. Here's the link to go buy it, right? This is marketing. It is, yes, education, but really the purpose is of building a relationship, which is marketing. The time that I spent actually fulfilling, coaching, creating the content that's in our programs is minute, is very, very small. I maybe spend 3 or 4 hours a month, well, probably with coaching included, maybe 10 hours a month actually on the fulfillment. And then usually I work 20, 25 hours a week. The rest of the time, marketing and managing my team, who's a lot of them are the marketing aspect and the sales component. So just keep that in mind, that while you think, oh, being an educator is great, I can take the knowledge in my head, yes, you can, but for a very small portion of time. And then what was the last one? The ego and the traveling the world. Here's the thing. And I'm going to start tying in the team building component of it. Yes, there are few and far between opportunities for you to be asked to come teach internationally. However, the money-making opportunity associated with that is very, very, very slim, unless you're heavily doing marketing. So look, I can get invited to go speak at conferences all over the world, and I have, and I love it. But my approach to it is I go because of the opportunity to go travel and be in a new location and like tack on a vacation. It's not because there's good money in it, right? Because if there is good money in it, it's usually because I'm then marketing in that local area to host a workshop, to host a training. But again, it's all marketing. It's not because I'm being paid an excessive amount to cover travel, to cover hotel, to cover my food while I'm there, much less boarding my dogs and figuring out what to do with childcare while they're back home. And then I go there, I usually have maybe an hour speech at a conference. I'm networking with people, but most of that is not compensated. And so if I want to host a workshop, sure, I could do that. And I could probably use the audience that's coming to the conference to have an extended like retreat of some kind. But that's all me doing that work. That is not coming from these conference organizers or the people that want to bring you in to train you. Usually those that are like, hey, I'd love to have you come all the way to Australia. Can you come teach a course? They're going to do their own little bit of marketing, but really it's up to you to do a lot of marketing as well, because you're the one with the name and the brand. So keep that in mind, that while it sounds amazing to travel, and I'm not saying that's for everybody, very few percentage, but there are some that make great money doing the international education. But for the most part, with how much digital education there is out there, it's much more cost effective and much more profitable to do all of it online rather than traveling, unless you're traveling for other reasons or you're doing like a whole tour, in multiple locations to try and get a decent amount of sales. So all that to say, should you build a team versus an educator? Well, why would you want to do that? They're two completely separate businesses, which they are. Well, here's a couple of reasons and just some seeds I'm going to plant. One, if you have a brick and mortar lash business, so like a physical location, and you're at the point where you're popping out clients and you're fairly busy, maybe you're even fully booked, you adding on team members is not changing the business model. It is enhancing it. It is scaling the business model you already have working, right? So we're just adding a service provider in there so that now we can have 2 people producing sales, and then eventually maybe 3 or 4, and then we start to remove you so that you can then again focus on marketing, focusing on the financials, focusing on management. So you're not shifting business models. You don't need to create a separate website, a separate offer, a separate Instagram page, a separate Google My Business page. You already have all of that most likely set up. We're just adding more supply to the overall demand that you've already created. So we're not pivoting and shifting business models. We're keeping on, right? Second, if you want to do the education side of things, you actually get more education and more mentorship and more satisfaction of watching someone's growth and development when they're an employee of yours, because you are working with them for longer periods of time. So you can hire somebody with 0 skills, right? 0 experience, train them up for 90 days to get them to some level, have them start taking clients. And then over time, you can start to add volume fans in. You can start to teach them the perfect line and the wet look and lash lift and tint and microblading and all these other things. So you can actually be a part of their overall growth and development professionally. And that's really rewarding, especially when you get to like their year mark, if they've been with you a year and you kind of have this beautiful moment where you're looking back on how far they've come and how amazing it is of how much you could show them their lash work from like their first few sets to now. And they're just like, wow, this is amazing. Thank you so much for teaching me. You've had time to mentor them ongoing. And you don't have to keep acquiring new employees if you don't want to. Right? So you can have that employee come in and instead of, them paying you $1,000, $2,000 for training, you're actually getting, if you've worked your numbers right, consistent profit every single week by the sales they produce if you've structured your business for your team members to produce profit. So that's an amazing thing too, where you're getting paid consistently over time as opposed to just, it's a one-time exchange. There you got your customer. That's the only product or service they're ever going to buy from you. Now they're on to other things. So now you got to go, back out into the world and hunt down your next student. So all of that to say, for the 3 primary reasons of why people want to become educators, as opposed to maybe building a team, you actually probably would be better off served building a team, because you can get more consistent mentorship and long-term education. You don't have to acquire new team members every single month to keep the doors open. They're producing sales weekly for you in your business. And if we're going to throw in that travel side of things, you have team members in your business that can produce sales so that you can actually just go vacation rather than trying to throw in work and a vacation all in once, which comes with its own complexities as well, right? Or you can do both. You can leave the salon because sales are still happening. You can go travel, be an educator over there because you already have a process of how to teach people how to do lashes, and you're making money while you're overseas and they're producing money at home. And it's, I don't know, kind of sounds like a win-win to me. What do you think? So I know there's a lot of other kind of things that come up when you're considering building a team, but I did want to plant that seed because I find a lot of people who are considering building out a team or becoming an educator and are leaning towards educator. When I have this conversation with them, they actually would prefer building a team for a lot more of the stability and growth and getting their time back, as opposed to basically starting a whole new business when this original business of providing lash services is already consuming so much of their time and energy and resources as it is. Most people don't have the bandwidth to then start from the ground up with a new business. So that's all I've got for you today. If you're interested in learning how to build a team and hire your first profitable producing team members, DM me #hire on Instagram, or you can email me #hire, and let's talk about your team building goals or any questions you have about building a team. That's all I've got for you today. Have a good one.